Have you ever waited so long for something that when it finally happened, you didn't even feel excitement first? You just felt relief. Well, that was us. For months, Luke and I, and you too, kept asking the same question over and over and over again. When is this roof going to be poured? We tired. April, May, June, July, August. By the end of August, we weren't just talking about concrete anymore. We were talking about money, trust, receipts, subcontractors, and the relationships that were beginning to crack. The roof wasn't the only thing under pressure anymore. And then on September 3rd at 10:34 a.m., a voice note came in from the contractor that made us feel so good for a moment, like if the horizon could actually be touched. It was right there. And he said, and I quote, "The floor is scheduled to pour today. The guys on site and the concrete should arrive in the next hour from the last update." Luke and I waited. We decided, though, not to respond until we heard that it had actually been poured. Why? Because we were tired. We were tired hearing the same promises over and over for months. And again, just as we thought, another broken promise. Nothing. That was the moment the silence started to feel louder than the promises. Welcome back to Building Back Home with Jackie.
Yeah, man, the vision's strong. Building back home where I belong. Ooh, yeah. But every foundation got a story to tell about the unseen cracks and the caution bell. So come walk with me through the sun and the rain. On Jackie's journey, we gon' rise again.
Before we continue, let me remind everyone where we are in the journey, because I did get a lot of comments. I want you to know that today's story takes us back to September and November of 2025. So we're now at September through October today, November for us of 2025. I'm sharing these events chronologically and using the documents, the messages, the photographs, and the records Luke and I had created as everything unfolded. And today, we know how the story ends. Luke and I know how the story ends, but back then, we didn't. So I invite you to walk back into that moment with us, one chapter at a time. As always, this is our personal story. We share it so our diaspora family, our local builders, can ask better questions, keep better records, and protect their investment. I want you to know Barbados is our home, and we love Barbados. We share this journey to help others navigate theirs with more confidence and more clarity. All right? So I'm going to start with a Bajan cultural moment. Growing up in Bayfield, Skeets Bay, my father spent his life reading the sea. As children, we look out across the water down by the bay and think we could see exactly where we were going. But my father would smile and say to me, "Jack, Jack, we see these fool people here. Sometimes what you're seeing and where you're going. And as a little girl, I never understood that. I thought if I could see it, I could reach it. Years later, building this house, I finally understood exactly what he meant. No, the pour that never came. On September 3rd, Luke sent a simple message in the chat. You know Luke and his simple messages. He asked, "Hi contractor, it is 5:15 now. How did the pour go?" And it was just such a simple question. But even that question seemed to tell us something was off. Because within 4 minutes, the architect responded with a crying emoji and wrote this: "Nope, I'll leave it at contractor," by his name, "to explain." And that was it. Nothing clear as to why the contractor needed to explain, and just silence. No word from the contractor, and more waiting. The architect was disappointed too. Because not only did the architect let us know the pour had not happened from his message, it also seemed that the contractor had updated him, but not us. And that feeling, my dear listeners, that feeling stays with us because you feel like, but we're the clients, we're the ones spending the money. Then the next morning, on September 4th at 9:59 a.m., the architect wrote this: "Good morning, all. At contractor, my name. When we spoke yesterday, you said you would update the chat when you got data. We are still waiting." Then a whole day later, on September 5th at 9:48 a.m., the contractor finally replied, "Waiting on the supplier. They're experiencing mechanical issues." That was the kind of answer that made you pause, right? Because by then, we had already lived through so many delays that even the explanation started to sound like part of the pattern. I was thinking something felt wrong. You know what? Maybe I should call the concrete supplier. What do you think? Well, the next time we heard from the contractor since the 3rd was on September 8th, 2025 at 3:05 p.m. Video came with no words, no message, just the video. And then the architect responded, and I quote, "Thanks, contractor. Can you pour some steel in the boxing for the stairs to the roof before it hardens? Thanks." End of quote. Listeners, those stairs in question were the stairs leading to the roof. The same stairs we had already fully paid for. As I mentioned in the previous episode, we will discuss change orders and payment schedules and how we were impacted on this project by paying forward or fully paying for change orders with work not started or partially. The contractor replied then to the architect with one word: yes. That was it. No celebration, no excitement, just a moment of quiet confirmation. Luke and I looked at each other and said, well, it seems the roof was finally poured. But even then, there was no real excitement. We were just relieved. And maybe that says everything about where we were emotionally. Because at that point in the journey, we thank Jehovah, but we did not celebrate the way you would expect people to celebrate when they have a major milestone. Because by then, the emotions we had experienced were really happy or glad or excited. Mostly throughout this journey, they have been sad, scared, disappointed, disrespected, confused, numb, tired. Meanwhile, don't forget the windows and doors coming. The windows and doors were on the way, and the discussion between Luke and I now was about the roof deck and the stairs. If the steel now poured, was it still really okay, since we had so many conversations about compromised steel. We were just tired. In the meantime, we were still in conversation also with the supplier and the architect in the other chat about the delivery dates and the kitchen and laundry cabinets and finishes, which we had already ordered. And this is something we were in discussion with them about the cabinetry since March of 2025. So you see, there is a lot going on. Then 11 days later, on September 19th, give a round of applause. The trucks with the custom windows and doors coming from China came to the site. The windows and doors that we had worked for and saved for many years. When the pictures and the videos came through on the WhatsApp, sitting there in New York, Luke and I smiled. We honestly believe that the hardest part of our journey was finally behind us. We thought September was our breakthrough. But looking back now, September wasn't our breakthrough. It was our false horizon. Let me pause here and say something clearly. This is our personal experience. It is not legal advice. It is not a blanket statement about every builder or every contractor or every project. But it's a real story about what can happen when you are building from far away, when communication is inconsistent, and when major milestones make everything look more secure than it actually is. And that is why I'm sharing it, because the lesson is not only what happened, the lesson is what we did not yet know to ask. You know how when you're out on the ocean, you think land is just ahead, only to realize it's much farther away. And that's exactly what September became. Because October came and almost nothing happened. And looking back now, Luke and I felt that the many delays and now the intense conversations, the broken promises and the talk about money and all of the back and forth with the concrete supplier and machines not working and all that, that had brought the project to a standstill. Because the roof had been poured and the cargo had arrived. And they were placed in the contractor's container, and from a distance everything looked calm. Sometimes calm is just the quiet before the next problem reveals itself, the calm before the storm, they said. And again, we're looking back, because looking back now, there's something I wish somebody had told me years ago. I'd never heard the words vesting certificate. Never. And if somebody had asked me in September of 2025 what a vesting certificate was, I couldn't have answered. But today, I understand exactly why that document matters. But let me not get ahead of myself. Let me take you back step by step. On September 19th, 2025, the custom cargo from China arrived at our project. 2 flatbed haulage trucks. That was a big moment for us because everything had been custom ordered to fit the project. And because space was tight, the cargo had to be split. So the main set of windows and doors went into the first 20-foot container, which the contractor had rented. The remaining items, including one of our oversized sliding doors, those went into the second 20-foot container beside the contractor's tools and equipment. From New York, when we saw the photos through WhatsApp, it looked fine, it looked safe, and honestly, I think that is where a lot of us get caught. When you're not on the ground, when you're far over and away, a picture can calm your spirit. A message can calm your spirit. A photo can make you feel like, wow, everything is under control. But it isn't always the full story. And that's when we started to realize something wasn't sitting right. Now, as October went on, the site slowed down completely. Week after week, there was no real progress. And that's one of the hardest things about building from overseas. Nothing dramatic happens. It just slowly stops. And when we ask questions, we got these long explanations and promises that work would resume next week and the next week. And I'm going to put somebody on the site and over and over. You know the kind of answers that sound busy, but don't actually tell you anything? Well, that was the problem. The project had enough activity to look alive because no containers there with windows in it, the roof done pour, and so it feels like there's activity, it feels alive, but not enough activity to actually move forward. And when you're building from thousands of miles away, that kind of half progress can be dangerous because it tricks you into thinking the project is still healthy. You hear me, builders? At least twice a week, my brother, Peter, would pass by to give us an update. My relative who lives nearby would give us an update as he passed to go to and fro from his home. They would at times send us a little video or pics to show us what's going on, but no change, no activity. Just look at me and be worried. Let me bring in the red flags here for this episode. Red flag 1. A major milestone can create the illusion that the entire project is healthy. 2. Visible progress should never replace independent verification. Celebrating completion before confirming quality can create expensive surprises. Number 4, a house can look finished in photographs, while critical systems remain incomplete. Number 5, momentum after months of delays deserves documentation just as much as the delays themselves. These are the kinds of signals we now know not to ignore. With the long-awaited roof now poor, the windows and the doors finally delivered, and as Luke and I continued to sit in our thoughts, we realized something. Listen to this clearly. September wasn't our win. September was a false horizon. And here are the lessons that we learn from this episode and from the month of September and October. A milestone is not the same as project completion. So lesson 1. Lesson 2, hope should never replace verification. 3, photographs show what the camera sees, not always what the project needs. Hear that? And lesson 4, celebrate progress, but continue asking your questions. 5, remote home owners need systems, not assumptions. Diaspora builders, remote home owners need systems, not assumption. By mid-November, we knew we could not keep managing this project from phone screens. So we decided to take another trip back to Barbados. Y'all ready? Looking back, we probably shouldn't have announced that we were coming. Be too fast. Because suddenly the engine started up. The boat began moving again. But by then, it sounded like an engine running on borrowed time. Let me ask you this. What would you do? This is your what would you do? And this is to my global family. If you spent 25 years saving for your custom windows and doors to build your house, you watch them get loaded into 2 containers on your lot in Barbados, and then found out the site had frozen because of sub-trades and workers, and you would hear some of them talk to us in November. What would you do? Would you demand an audit, or would you try to keep the peace? What would you do? Because for us, that moment became a turning point. So if you're ready, come and take this trip with us once again. You went in July. This is going to be our 3rd time for me. November 24, July with you now, because standing on the clay in mid-November, Luke and I decided we had to take full control. This is when we believe that our faith, our praise were answered. Because a lot happened during this visit, and just a few days even before we left Barbados, once again feeling disappointed. In a previous episode, I told you that when I migrated from Barbados to New York in the late 80s, I became an international risk taker. Well, from here on, it will be quite fitting because our journey, remember, went to China with the windows and doors. The boat was stuck in a storm in Colombia. You will hear about a Cuban worker on site, language barrier. And now in November 2025, Hear this, ladies and gentlemen. Hear this, listeners. We have drifted to London, England. We found our independent oversight. New eyes. New hidden reefs were found beneath the surface. And as Luke and I boarded that plane back to the cold in New York, we looked one last time at our house. And those two 20-foot containers sitting quietly on the land. We believed everything inside was safe. We believed the worst was behind us. We were wrong. Because sometimes the greatest danger isn't the storm you can see, it's the calm that convinces you the storm has already passed. And that's exactly where our story goes next. Because what happened next? The November trip, the prayer we said, the faith and hope that we kept, the angels we met, and the closed doors that reveal so much when open is a story all on its own. A story that changed everything that we thought we knew. So join me. Join me in the next episode as we go deeper into the November trip, the unexpected help that we received, and the truths that started to surface when we finally looked more closely. Because sometimes the calmest looking moment is the one hiding the biggest warning. And sometimes the false horizon is only the beginning. There are more questions than answers. Pictures in my mind that were not so.
From foreign shores, I bring the vision home. Built a legacy from concrete and from stone. Got the blueprints drawn, the white sands calling me. For the diaspora's children, planting the family tree. Building back home against the Atlantic tide. With Bajan roots and all that island pride. Watch the foundation rise, a brand new dawn in store. This ain't just building houses, it's something so much more. Yeah, it's Jackie and Luke building back home in Barbados.